Hello. We're going to continue today with the mouse and the motorcycle. Last time we read chapter 3. Chapter 3 was called Trapped. And if you recall, when we last left him, he was trapped in the wastebasket, which is what they call it in the book, the trash can. He's trapped down there in this metal enclosure. He can't get out. So he is down there. He's feeling very sad. He's feeling very worried, very remorseful, very guilty for letting this happen, even though his mom had warned him. His uncle Victor had done something similar and not made it through. So he's thinking all of these thoughts as he's down there. He's wondering, how's he gonna get out of here? What's he gonna do? He tries a bunch of different things. Nothing works. He spies some ants that come to try to eat the apple core. Remember, the apple had been thrown in there as well. And, he tells them, go away. And he's just figuring he's going to get thrown out with the trash later. So he's a little worried. Okay. All right. So we're on chapter 4. Chapter 4 is called Keith. Keith is the kid that has the motorcycle and cars that he's playing with. So Keith, chapter 4. Ralph did not know how much time had passed before he was awakened by the lamp on the bedside table shining down on him. He squeezed himself into the tiniest possible ball, wrapped his tail around his body, and tried to make himself as thin as the apple core. "My motorcycle!" shouted the boy, the very first thing. "Somebody stole my motorcycle." "Oh no," thought Ralph, "it wouldn't be long now." "Nobody stole your motorcycle," answered the boy's mother from 216. "It's around someplace. You just mislaid it. You can find it in the morning. You'd better get ready for bed now." "No, I didn't mislay it," insisted the boy. "I put it right here on the table beside my sports car." "You'll find it someplace," said his mother, not really interested. Boys were always losing things. While Ralph cowered behind the apple core, Keith opened the drawer on his bedside table and slammed it shut. He jerked back the bedspread, yanked the pillows off the bed, and threw them back. Then he got down on his hands and knees and looked under the bed and the table. Ralph wrapped his tail more tightly around his body. "Here it comes," he thought. The boy's face appeared in the opening at the top of the wastebasket. Ralph's heart raced like a motor. "Ha!" said the boy to himself. "Here it is. I wondered how it got there." His hand came down into the wastebasket to seize the motorcycle and lift it out. Still leaning over the wastebasket, he examined the bent handlebar and the chipped paint. "That's funny," he remarked aloud. "It must have rolled off, but I don't see how it could." The boy did the natural thing for a boy to do. He looked into the wastebasket again. Ralph closed both eyes tight and waited. He wished he had not eaten so much of the apple core. If he had not been so greedy, the core would have been thicker and he would have been thinner. "Hey," whispered the boy, obviously very much surprised. "How did you get in here?" He was careful to keep his voice lower than the sound of the breezes and the pines outside the window. Ralph did not move. He was grateful to the boy for not touching the apple core, even though it was really no protection at all. "Psst," whispered the little boy. "Are you asleep?" Still Ralph remained motionless, except for a slight quiver of his whiskers, which he was unable to control. The boy was silent, but the mouse could feel the rhythmic drafts of his breathing. The boy must be thinking, but what was he thinking? That was what was worrying Ralph. "No," said the boy to himself. "No, it couldn't be." "Couldn't be what?" wondered Ralph, who was beginning to feel very cramped from crouching behind that apple core. "Hey, wake up," whispered the boy. That was the last thing Ralph wanted to do. "Come on," pleaded the boy. "I won't hurt you." Ralph considered. After all, what did he have to lose? If he stayed in the wastebasket, he was almost certain to get dumped into the incinerator. He might as well come out from behind the apple core. If he did, he might find some opportunity to escape. Cautiously, he moved his head from his paws and opened one eye. The boy was smiling down at him. Encouraged, Ralph opened the other eye and lifted his head. "That's the stuff," encouraged the boy. "Now come on, tell me, did you or didn't you ride my motorcycle off the bedside table?" This took Ralph by surprise. He had not expected the boy to guess what had happened. "Well, yes, I guess you might say I did," confessed Ralph, rubbing his aching muscles. "I thought so." Neither the mouse nor the boy was the least bit surprised that each other could understand the other. Talking animal and boy talking to one another. Okay. Two creatures who shared a love for motorcycles naturally spoke the same language. That must have been some accident. Did it hurt much? Oh, some, answered Ralph with a display of bravado. Anyway, I didn't exactly ride it. I really coasted off. The telephone rang and startled me. Now, how about getting me out of here? Just a minute, said the boy. How did you get up here in the first place? Climbed, stupid, on the telephone cord. Ralph instantly regretted his rudeness. He had better watch his tongue if he expected any help in escaping from the wastebasket. Oh, of course, said the boy apologetically. I should have thought of that myself. At that moment, there came a quick knock on the door to room 215 and the rattle of a key. Help, Ralph called. The maid! Don't let her see me. Before the boy could do anything, the maid burst into the room. Oh, excuse me. She seemed surprised to see a boy kneeling by the wastebasket. I've come to turn down the bed. That's all right, the boy said quickly. I can do it myself. Thanks anyway. Thank you, said the maid. Backing out of the room, Ralph knew she was not anxious to waste time turning down the bed. As soon as she finished her duty, she was going to the parking lot to meet someone, and his job was clearing the tables. Whew, that was close. The boy seemed every bit relieved, as Ralph did. I'll say, agreed the mouse. Keith, called his mother from 216, are you getting ready for bed? Sort of, answered Keith. Well, you better come in our bathroom and take a bath, said his mother. Aw, gee, Mom, do I gotta? Asked Keith. Yes, you do, said his father. And don't forget to brush your teeth. I won't, promised Keith. Then he whispered to Ralph. Just lie low. I'll hurry and take a bath and get into bed and turn out the light, and after Mom comes and kisses me goodnight, we can talk some more. Lie low indeed. Ralph was indignant. He could lie much lower if he wanted to, and he certainly did not want to sit around waiting to talk. He wanted to get out of that wastebasket. Once he was out, he would see about talking, but not before. Ralph could hear the boy splashing in 216's bathtub and then hastily brushing his teeth in 215's wash basin. After this, there was the sound of a suitcase being opened and clothes dropped on the floor. The boy hopped into bed, and to Ralph's relief, the light was turned out. In a moment, Mrs. Greeley came in and kissed her son goodnight. Night, Mom, said the boy, sounding as if he were already drowsy. Good night, Keith, said his mother. It looks as if we're going to have to stay here for a few days. Your father refuses to budge. That's okay, muttered Keith, giving the impression that he was almost asleep. Good boy, said his mother. You're a good sport. Good night, son, said his father from the doorway between the two rooms. Keith did not answer. Instead, he breathed slowly and deeply, and, as Ralph thought, a little bit too noisily, but there was no sense in overdoing things. As soon as it was quiet in the next room, the boy swung his legs out of bed, fumbled around in his suitcase, and shone a flashlight into the wastebasket. Almost blinded by the unexpected light, Ralph held his paws over his eyes. Hey, cut that out! He could not remember to be polite. Oh, sorry, the boy said, and laid the flashlight on the bed with its beam shown across the wastebasket rather than right into it. That's better, said Ralph. Now, how about getting me out of here? Please? The boy ignored the mouse's request. How would you like to ride my motorcycle? He asked. Ralph's heart skipped a beat, like a motor missing one cylinder. The mouse-sized motorcycle really would run after all? And there was one thing certain. Since the motorcycle really would run, the boy would not expect him to ride around on the bottom of the wastebasket. Sure, Ralph tried to sound calm. The important thing was to get out of this prison. He braced himself, dreading the touch of the boy's hand on his fur. To Ralph's surprise, the boy did not reach in and grab him. Instead, he slowly and gently tipped the wastebasket on its side, permitting Ralph to walk to freedom with pride and dignity. Thanks, said Ralph, genuinely grateful for this consideration. I believe you're okay. Sure, I'm okay, said the boy. Did you think I wasn't? Well, you can never actually tell, Ralph said as he put his paw on the handlebar of the motorcycle. It's a real beauty, even with a bent handlebar. I'm sure sorry about that. Forget it, said the boy reassuringly. It won't hurt much. The motorcycle will still run. Ralph threw his leg over the motorcycle and settled himself comfortably into the seat. Perfect, just perfect. The boy was obviously delighted that the motorcycle was just right for the mouse. Ralph could not have agreed more heartily. It was perfect, except for one thing. He did not know how to start it. Well, go on, said the boy. Ride it. Ralph was ashamed to confess his ignorance. I don't know how to start it, he admitted. It's the first motorcycle I've ever had a chance to ride. Well, you have to make a noise, the boy explained, matter-of-factly. These cars don't go unless you make a noise. The answer was so obvious, Ralph was disgusted with himself for not knowing about it. He grasped the handle grips and, fearful lest his noise be too squeaky, managed a pum-pum-pum-pum-pum-pum. Sure enough, the motorcycle moved. It really and truly moved across the threadbare carpet. Ralph was so excited that he promptly forgot to make noise. And the motorcycle stopped. Ralph started again. Pum-pum-pum-pum-pum-pum. This time he remembered to keep on going and making the noise. He sped off into a square of moonlight on the carpet and found a good threadbare spot without any bumps. Look out for your tail, said the boy. Don't let it get caught in the spokes. Ah, thanks for reminding me, said Ralph, causing the motorcycle to stop. And he started it again and steered with one paw while he reached back with the other, caught up his tail and held his tip safely against the handlebar. It was a glorious sensation, speeding around on the carpet freely and noisily and most of all, fast. Ralph discovered that if he made the noise fast, the motorcycle speeded up. If he slowed the sound, the motorcycle slowed down. He promptly speeded up and raced around in the rectangle of the moonlight, where he made another discovery. When he ran out of breath, the momentum of the motorcycle carried him on until he could take another breath. Gee, you're lucky, whispered the boy. In order to answer, Ralph had to stop. I am? It had never occurred to him that a mouse could be luckier than a boy. You sure are, the boy spoke with feeling. My mother would never let me ride a motorcycle. She would say I would break a leg or, something silly like that. Well, if you want to come right down to it, said Ralph, I suppose my mother would exactly be crazy about this idea. He began to have an uneasy feeling that he really should be getting back to the mouse hole. Anyway, said the boy gloomily, it will be years and years before I'm old enough to ride a motorcycle, and then when I am old enough, my mother won't let me. Ralph felt really sorry for the boy, hampered as he was by his youth and his mother. Go on, ride it some more, said the boy. I like to watch. Pum-pum-pum-pum-pum-pum. Ralph started the motorcycle again and rode around in the moonlight once more, faster and faster until he was dizzy from circling, dizzy with excitement, and dizzy with the joy of speed. Never mind the danger, never mind what his mother thought. This was living. This was what he wanted to do, on and on and on. Lucky, whispered the boy with envy in his voice. Ralph did not answer this time. He did not want to stop. All right, so that was the end of chapter 4. I love this chapter because we get to see a side of the boy that we didn't really expect. And we also learn that just making this sound, this pop-pop-pop-pop sound that Ralph is making makes the motorcycle actually go, which I think is very cool. So we will continue with chapter 5 next. Later, guys.